are the crib ruins. Yeah. You know, and you know, you can see where the little. You talk about Sand Creek. Sand Creek. Did I hear somebody say Sand Creek? Yeah, yeah. That site is extreme. You know, there's something really bad. Yeah. You know, and yeah, you know, that guy. It was you know there was only one Civil War battle fought in this area, and it was at Glorieta Pass. Yeah, which is towards the New Mexico border. You head down I-25 as you go over Raton Pass, and there's Glorieta is on the other side there. These are the cribs right here. This is where the fire started. The higher class hookers, prostitutes, the ladies of the evening, red light district gals, the more expensive you were, the further up the hill you were. As you can see, these cribs right here at the bottom of the hill, they house these girls in here. They bunch them up together. And I know that we went on the ghost tour at Leadville, and they say the most haunted area of town there is where all those abortions were. I can't even imagine the horrors that went on in a place like this, you know. They were going to tear this down and turn the whole thing into a parking lot, and they just decided that these are, you know, the Historic Society up here is like, you know, this is an important part of Cripple Creek's heritage, so you kind of need to hang on to it. It's like the museum, which is just like a couple blocks up that way. You know, the brothel museum. They were going to tear all of this stuff down. And what they did was they made a deal with the casinos that they had to preserve certain historical areas, otherwise they weren't going to let them come in here. You know, I mean, I think the gambling thing is a bit of a double-edged sword, you know, because they built a new hospital in Teller County. They built some stuff here in Teller County that was really good for the county, but short-term, you know, it's a short-term fix for, you know, these areas that come in here and try to do some economic things. So this is where the fire started, and it swept all through Cripple Creek, and that's why that was the, you know, 1894, 1895 fires, and that's why you see the facades with all the 1896. And it was, and this place went bust after World War I. Everybody pretty much left here after World War I because they went from the silver standard during World War I to the gold standard. There was still a lot of gold being mined here, but a lot of the guys that had built this place and had built their fortune, like Stratton and Palmer and those guys, you know, and none of those guys lived up here. They all lived in Colorado Springs, you know, and there was a railroad that went directly from here to the Colorado Springs smelting plants, which are off of 30th Street. You've seen it, it's Gold Bond Hill. You still can't buy, I still wouldn't buy a home in Gold Bond Hill today. That water's polluted. You can't grow stuff there. They warn you not to. If you have a garden, don't eat anything that you pull out of the ground.
No
here.
garden,
I mean,
no
it's
fruit
that
trees.
bad. You know, I mean, because it's just that bad there. So these guys come, you know, so they had to preserve some of this historical stuff, you know, as part of the deal to bring gambling into Teller County. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword. They needed things here, but it's sort of short-term, you know.
Were these women, were they basically sex slaves?
You know, I think, you know, it does sound to a certain degree like there was a sense of indentured servitude about prostitution, but there really wasn't. You know, you got to remember this was before suffrage. The career opportunities, school teacher, wife, or prostitution, and I think a lot of these women that moved out here with their husbands. I mean, you got to remember, women until 1920 in this country were property. You know, I think for some women, I'm sure it was a step down coming down off the hill from being, you know, with the high-class madams. And I bet for some women it was just an escape away from the brutality of their husbands. I mean, think about the temperance movement in this country. You know, it was really not a move about alcohol as much as it was about domestic violence. Because these guys would come home and get drunk and just take everything out on their partners. You know, I mean, we have a very different concept today about male-female relationships than they did just 100 years ago in this country.
Well,
I mean,
you got the first female doctor buried here.
yeah. It's what was that? Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. The television series is based off of the first woman doctor here. Not very accepted in the town, but eventually she did become accepted here. But it took time. You know, these things take time. These things take time. So I'm sure that the abortions that went on here, I'm sure there's a lot of restless stuff here. You know, a lot of restless energy here. Like I said, I'm not very sensitive. Stephanie goes places where she can't even walk in the building. She was going to walk her dogs down here one day and just couldn't get into the parking lot. She was like, no, I just can't even come down here. So if You know, yeah, I
Couldn't
think
get
that,
closer than 4 blocks.
you know, I think that there are people that are very sensitive to this stuff. Like I said, I'm not one of them. My sensitivity is minimal at best, you know. But so I don't feel it, you know. You know, when we're in these places, but I know people that do. And this place is really pretty bad. So
Is this the actual building we're staring
this is like the foundation of where the cribs were. So right, you know, so I guess they were just stacked up there, and it was sort of like one of these buildings here, and they like every 6 feet it was just like bang, 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 bang. So it's kind of like, you know, you see films now that has like Eastern European kind of sex slaves and things like that. I think that's a fair comparison. I'm not sure everybody was forced to be here, but I think it's a fair comparison to what your lifestyle would have been like.
That was a good description.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't mean it that way, but I'm funnier than I know. That's amazing. All right, so everybody, it's back up heartache hill, or heart attack hill. So, and I would encourage you, if you're ever back up here again, or you're just kind of hanging out in the area, to come walk around this town at between 12:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I know it's when you're supposed to be getting your good REM sleep during that time period, but.
One of my best friends and I used to do a minute too. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's like, and what Stephanie always says about being sensitive to ghosts and things like that, is you got to be really aware with all of your senses. It's not just about it's not just about what you see, but it's about what you can smell and feel and hear, and, you know, people describe like differences in temperature, you know, so.